Hi, everyone, and welcome to our weekly mediocre video review show. It's pretty soon. It's not going to be mediocre. It's going to be like adequate. I think we're getting pretty good at this, Aaron. And I just want to welcome everybody. What do you think? Do you think we're working our way up to adequate?
I don't know. Your face is pretty bright today, Zach. I think
I'll move that lighting. Well, how's that look? I was telling Aaron before the show that I am working on my lighting to be better, and that was over the top.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, way better. Yeah, that's a lot better. It's still, I mean, yeah, you could get a little sun. I think maybe tan yourself up or something.
I mean, I live in Oregon. We don't get sun here, but I'm gonna try to make this background in the studio better. So I'm working on lighting and just like stuff. So this is to practice for me. But this is our weekly show. We do every week at 12:30 p.m. Pacific. Some weeks we're gonna review our own rafting videos. Like this week, I have a video I'm gonna share. But we also like to review other people's videos. So if you want us to just like watch your video and pick it apart, be happy to. You can't be sensitive because we're going to pick at the smallest things. Like we'll even review ourselves pretty harshly. But we love to look at people's videos. It's really fun for us. I mean, that's my dream job, Aaron. Rafting video commentator.
Oh, right? Man. Wouldn't it be cool to do live video commentating like during like races? Like maybe the next IRF race, somehow we can get that job to be the live commentators. That would be cool.
Our goal is to become such powerful influencers that the IRF flies us to Dubai, and then we can sit in the studio and commentate over the technique. Although I don't know if I know that much about racing. I'd rather just commentate on somebody running a river.
That's true. That's a little out of our scope. So
we probably should admit that though, because we still want to be on their list.
That being said, that would really be a cool episode. I think is if we could get someone who has some knowledge of raft racing with some video, and we can bring them on and we can learn something. That would be outstanding. Yeah. So if you guys know anyone who races rafts, who's got some video, who wants to share that with the group, that would be outstanding.
Yeah. So don't forget, for those of you joining, to lightly tap the subscribe button. We like subscribers. It helps us in the YouTube algorithm, and I don't know, it just makes me feel good about myself to have subscribers. And also like hit the like button on the like, and also you can comment. So please, it's really fun for us to comment. If we just talk the whole time, it's just kind of embarrassing, and it's really fun to interact with those of you out there watching. So please don't hesitate to leave a comment. And lately, a lot of our discussions have veered off in a whole other direction because of comments. And this is also an opportunity. If you just have questions, like I have a lot of people emailing me this week, what raft should I buy? What brand should I buy? Do I want a 13-foot or a 16-foot? Now is the time. Like we'll diverge during this hour or so we do this, and but so please leave comments. And but before we do our main topic of the week, which is throwbags, we want to talk about some follow-up things from last week. Aaron, do you have anything from last week, or should we just jump into this Star boat?
Let's jump into the Star boat. I don't have anything off the top of my head, so yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So a few people brought this up last week when we kind of diverged off into other areas, and this is a Star Slice. And this is the Star used to be its own company, and NRS bought them, I don't know, like 4 years ago, and rebranded everything. Well, it's still Star, but it's NRS Star. And it's the same basic design, but it's manufactured somewhere completely different. So it's not the same boat that Star had 100%. And I'll show you some photos of the old Star boat I put in here. But so this is, I think this category is called Shredder, right? Maybe somebody knows. This is...
they took the Shredder name and just incorporate. Yeah, wow. Okay.
I mean, Shredder is like Kleenex, right? Like the first person to make a Shredder, it was called a Shredder. Yeah. And so, we just call them Shredders. And when people talk about R2ing, that's two people in a raft. S2 is Shredder 2. So, I mean, if you're back east, people are like, oh, are you R1ing, R2ing, or S1ing, or S2ing, or S3ing? So we don't shred that much here in the West, but it's a terminology they use in the East. So this is a shredder or a paddle cat, I think is what people. I think paddle cat's a cool name too. That somebody threw a frame on, and it has some advantages and disadvantages versus normal cats, right? Like a cat would just be two cat tubes with a big frame in the middle, and there's definitely some differences. What do you think about this, Aaron?
Well, it looks a lot easier to rig than a regular cat. A lot faster, like just strap, like you just have to do Maybe they do extra. It looks like they did more than 4 straps, but it looks like you get away with just 4 straps on this. Looks like they put 2 on the inside as well, but I don't think you need those in the same way because it's got the thwarts to hold it in position, and the tubes aren't going to rotate around. So it looks nice. It looks really easy. And I like how the frame's way smaller. Those cat frames are way. That's the problem with cats. I feel like with their frames is they're really bulky and kind of unwieldy. So this looks like a fun little boat.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about cats is once you don't have to take your cat apart and put it together every time. It's a project, and I do that because I don't store my cat together. But when you get into cat boating, next thing you know, you need a trailer, then you need a big truck and a garage, and it's an expensive sport because eventually you need 5 acres with a warehouse to store your cat boat. Where this would be pretty easy to roll and unroll every trip and throw that frame on.
So this is more for the Subaru lovers, the Subaru boat.
Yeah, this is a great Subaru boat.
Yeah.
For me, the disadvantages are it's not going to power through holes quite the same. It's not going to run whitewater as well. It's going to get caught in holes. It's going to get surfed. It could wrap. And so it's definitely a more, there's the cat rafts are so forgiving. You lose some of the forgivingness with this boat.
Yeah, I feel like this looks like a more of a class 2-3 type of craft.
Yep.
I would not run this. It looks like really fun on low technical. It looks like it'd be really fun.
I would run this on the Wind or the North Fork American, but I would be challenged. It would be like kind of a novel thing because I think it would be challenging. And one thing with cat boating nowadays is people are straddling rocks. The new frames are called tunnel frames, and that way you can go over a rock, like even a foot out of the water. Where this, if you run into a rock in the front, you're going to get stopped.
What's the difference on why is the front lower?
Of the frame, yeah. There's not a bar across the middle. Let me see if I can if I can Google one of these frames.
I know the frames you're talking. But for our listeners as well, yes. Good to see Froggy Man here on time, ready to go.
Yeah, welcome, Froggy Man.
Yeah, thanks and I like the first thing. Own it.
I was first down. We appreciate it. I'm a punctual guy.
Yeah.
But the tunnel frames with instead of having that low bar in front of the tube, they're kind of built so they go up, and so you can go over a rock. And they were designed based on running the Wind River, a river where it's kind of nice to go over rocks a lot. And so instead of bashing your bar and breaking it, a lot of the class 5 frames have this tunnel effect.
But you're not going to bash a bar with this either.
Yeah, you're just going to rip the boat or get stuck. I mean, you're going to get stuck. You're going to hit a rock and get stuck and spin off. Where a tunnel frame, you just go over the top of it.
What do you think is the difference in clearance between the tunnel frame and this?
This has no clearance. I mean, that floor is probably
on water.
2 inches above the bottom tube, I'm guessing.
Okay.
So you don't have much clearance.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's affordable. We saw last week. I think this boat's $2,000. I bet those oars and frame, that's another $1,000. For $3,000, you can be rowing this bad boy down the river. So, and the cool thing about this boat is that in the front, this particular paddle cat, is that they have these zippers in the front, like this here and this here, and so there's storage built in.
How big a thing could you store in there?
I mean, you could store, I don't know, like you could store your pump and lunch and a safety kit in each one. So, I mean, you could fit a small person inside each one.
A small person. Really small person. If I did an overnight trip, if we did an overnight trip and we were R2ing this, could one of us fit our gear in the front one and one of us fit our gear in the back one? Yeah, like I think our Colorado dry bags would pretty much fill that. Okay. Yeah, great. That's a great example. The Colorado, from Watershed. All right, cool. Yeah. And there'd be like room to throw us, take your water bottle in and, some stuff. I'm going to say, Zach, this looks like an amazing craft. And the other thing, just to kind of finish up with this, is like R2ing this. I mean, I think R2ing is the way to go in terms of running rivers. Go with a friend, 2 of you in a boat, take a couple paddles. This would be so easy to roll up, unroll, pump up, carry down to the water, carry out at the end of the day. Yeah, you and your buddy and some other buddy, meet some other people at the river, or your friends are kayakers and you're not good enough to kayak. You're not going to be that slow with this. Like if you're on your game, you can be ready to go probably before the kayakers are. actually.
Yeah, when I'm kayaking and somebody shows up with a raft, I'm like, oh man, we're gonna be here next. Just more put in, more takeout. We got to throw it on trucks. Whereas if you have this, you can not make people wait for you, or you maybe don't need help getting to put it in and take out. Which we're all happy to help, but it's sort of wearing sometimes. Especially if it's like you're doing an after work paddle and you got to get home to something.
Yeah.
So it's nice. And when we were boating a lot, Aaron, when I was boating a lot in like the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't think we knew that R2ing was a thing. We had to have an R5. It was like, hey, we need 5 people to go rafting. And I wish this had existed back then. I would have gotten into this a ton. I would have loved R2ing back when I
didn't really I thought that was something cute you did on really low. I didn't see how you could use it as many places as you can back then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, now I probably would never have gotten to kayaking because I got into kayaking first, but I probably would have learned about R2ing and got very motivated because it's really fun to have a good partner and travel around. So I have a couple of photos here of the Star Cat. So this is the original Star Cat before NRS bought them. And these are beautiful boats. It was 48 pounds. So you could travel with this pretty easy. Now, if you put it in a bag, your bags usually weigh 4 pounds. So you're over 50. So you had to get creative on. Just because a boat's 48 pounds doesn't mean you can automatically check it.
They let you slide a lot, don't they? When you check, I feel like they give you a little.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. I've checked 51-pound bags where they're like, nah, try again. But this is the one it was designed off of, and I have a couple photos here. I really like this boat. People are tuning it. This is one. Here's another good one.
That's a PVC boat originally.
This is a PVC. Yeah, it's still PVC. But Star had this. There was a factory in I think South Korea that just had really amazing workmanship. So I have to say, even though it's PVC, I really like the quality of this boat. I normally don't like PVC boats. And the NRS boat, if you go back to it, if you look at it, the floor right here, this is an insert that inflates. It comes in and out, right? It's not permanently attached. It's like I think it's what's the thing with the threads in it called? Drop stitch. It's just a drop stitch inflatable insert. Whereas the Star one, if I remember right, it didn't really have an inflatable floor. It just had like drain holes, which are fine on that boat.
If you can remove the floor on the NRS Star, will that cut the weight under 50, or is it still going to be over 50 for the new one?
I think it's still over 50.
Yeah,
that's a good question. So, if anybody knows, please comment. I have no idea. This is the zipper thing right here. So this on the Star one, this was a dry bag. In the NRS one, there were like it's not a waterproof zipper, and there were drain holes down there. On this old one, it was like a dry suit zipper, and so you actually had dry bags in the front and the back, which I was super stoked on. So I don't know if you can. I love this boat. If you can find one of these old Stars, I say they're worth picking up. It was a really well done boat, and the NRS one is cool too. I just think the original Star one was better.
Okay, so Chad comments that his Slice XL fits on the roof rack perfectly, so you can. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So you could just take the whole thing, just put it up on top, and just like, yeah, then you're definitely faster than kayakers. You just like get up there, put that on.
You're not fast. You still have to tie it on. You're still faster.
Yeah, but you know what? The kayakers are going to take longer. They're at that point.
Come on.
Because you walk down to the river, you put the boat in, splash it, and get in and paddle away. They're like messing with their little stuff and putting their things in and all this around, and then they got to put their skirt on. Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
I want to apologize to all of our kayak friends that are watching for Aaron's ignorance.
I don't think kayakers watch this show, Zach.
So, hey, before we get into the topic this week, I've been doing a lot of throwback practice. I've just, we're filming for a video series we're doing, but I'm also just like doing some throwback practice, and I'm working on improving both Aaron and I are instructors for the International Rafting Federation. And I'm also going through practicing my instructor stuff, like getting better at administering the IRF tests, which if you're a river guide and you want to be certified as an IRF guide, you have to pass a throwback test, a flip test. You have to give a safety talk. You have to demonstrate that you have the skills you need to guide. And so one of the things in the IRF test, which is a throwback test. There we go. We got a kayaker on here, Aaron. Chris, I apologize for Aaron's ignorance. So what do we do?
I'm assuming they kayak as well. So
okay.
maybe that's what they're saying. Wow. I'm flattered that kayakers will listen to us talk because I feel like we're that knowledgeable on kayaking.
Here's some comments. We just learned how to show the comments on the page. So thank you guys for commenting. So going back to throw bags, I've been practicing a lot because I want to always work on my throw bag skills, but I'm also practicing administering the IRF test. And the IRF test is we'll explain in a minute. It is kind of contrived. So if somebody comments like, well, this isn't super realistic, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Like I get it, but it makes you get better. It challenges you a little bit. So before we get into throw bags, I will put a comment up, and I love this comment. But if you have a second and you just want to like comment where you're from or your favorite or your like hometown river, it'd be good to know where everybody's coming from, just so we're curious. So please leave a comment. Like I'm a Cali person, I paddle the South Fork, or I'm a Gully person. It'd be really nice to hear from everybody.
I'm curious also to hear from people about like what do they think is their ideal size R2 craft?
Oh yeah, get people to answer this question.
Yeah,
so Benjamin asks,
what is your ideal size, Zach?
Yeah. So Benjamin asks, what's your ideal size raft to R2? 10.5, 11, or 12? I mean, this is like which golf club do I use to hit a hole in one almost? I'm a bigger person. And I don't like falling out. So I'm gonna say 12 for me. But
I'm gonna say something weird here. I think I've had some really fun days also on 14s. Not to say that 14 is optimal for certain things, but certain rivers, R2ing a 14 footer is really fun. So I mean, I don't, I think I'd rather have a 12 personally, but yeah, I think R2ing you can R2 a lot of craft and it works well. It really depends on the river you're running too.
Mm-hmm.
So
my R2 boat's actually a 13. I have a 130D that I use when I R2, just because I like size. And I wish it was a R. I wish it wasn't diminished. I wish I had a full tube on that boat. But I think a 13 is a good size to R2 for the stuff that I do. But man, those 10.5s just sound fun. Like if I'm out going with you and we go run like something easy class 4, it'd be more fun to have a 10.5 because we could goof off more. But if I'm running harder stuff, I definitely want bigger.
I'd say my favorite was an 11 footer. My favorite ever, it was a Sotar 11-foot R2 boat. And that was like and it had some good rocker in the front and the back so we could punch through hydraulics. It was fast, which was good most of the time. But yeah, that was probably my favorite one I've ever used. That being said, pretty much I'll say any R2 boat from 10 foot to 14 foot that I'm getting to R2, I'm usually really excited about. So
it was your favorite because it was the most fun, or because
it performed really well. It just performed really well. It drove through holes really well. Yeah, it ran real nice. I mean, the only problem is it was so fast. Sometimes on steeper stuff, you could get going quicker than you wanted. But yeah, it was awesome. So Zach, looks like people kind of got on the whole where they're based. You want to do
that's super cool. Thank you guys for mentioning where you're from. It helps us just know geography, know where everybody's coming from.
Have you paddled with Chad since he's from Eugene?
I don't think so. Chad, if we're best friends and I just forgot, I'm sorry, but I don't think we paddled before. But just go back to R2. I just want to say one thing. I firmly believe that like an Air 13 foot, whether it is D, R, or E, is the best R2 boat out there. Like I'm not an Air. I only own one Air, and it's a 13 foot. But if you're looking for an R2 boat, I think that it's unmatched in terms of for R2ing. We're not going to get in this debate right now.
I'm going to say this is the best, and then I'm not going to get into debate. Okay, we can.
all right, let's go. No, Aaron, why not, or why do you think it's the best?
Maybe I just haven't used them enough. I just find that they track weird, and I'm not used to the way they handle.
Yeah, it's just getting used to it. But with R2ing, you're not tracking that much, right? You're maneuvering a lot. It's not like a gearboat where you need to track a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, Chad. Yeah. Okay, hold on. That's right. I know. I know who you are. Sorry. I'm sorry for being ignorant, Chad. So one more. So as we get into throw bags, Chad writes, we do throwback golf as an in-game camp game, multi-day trips. Yeah, super cool. I think throwback practice is good. But what we're going to see here in some of this video we're going to get into is that throwback practice on land is different than in the river. And as we've been practicing a week, I'm just going to start this video. What we did this week was here. This is on land. 3 of us did one regular throw, and then we did one butterfly coil throw, and then one double loop throw and one single loop throw on land. Just each of us practice. So you're about to see each of us do 7 throws, and there's 3 of us. So we're just going to take our time and go through.
Well, we can talk about a lot of this. We can talk about where everyone's from while you're coiling this thing. We can probably go through everyone's.
Look, I'm already throwing it. That's the butterfly. Not bad, right?
And now you're doing the coil.
This, I think, is the coil hat. The 2 coils, I think, is what I'm doing here. Willie Bum Bum's calling. Is he calling us nerds?
Well, I guess he is. But before he was saying wasabi, which I do not understand what that's about. Is that where he's from? Yeah. He's from wasabi.
I think that's like what's up, what's up. I think that's what cool people say when they say, "Hey, did you see that throw?" Again, not bad, right?
Not pay attention actually, but yeah, those are good throws. I'm less concerned about the. Now you're going back to doing the. Which one are you doing now?
This is, I think, just the one big loop.
And you did the split last time.
I did the split last time. Yeah.
How long is this taking? For you to like coil your rope?
Hey, oh, this is the 2. That's the 2.
They all look like they work.
They all work. They all went the length, right? But I'm doing my second round. We're all doing 2 rounds. So this is, I mean, I got them all to work.
This is nerdy. All right, let's like, okay. Michael talks about he prefers the 10-5 R2 in the lower gully in Pennsylvania.
That's
yeah. 10-5 would be fun out there. I think 10-5 would be great everywhere, actually.
I really want a 10-5. Okay, so here's the butterfly again. And you saw I got a little bit tangled up down there. So the butterfly the butterfly is supposed to maybe be the least tangleable, right? Because you're laying these nice coils back and forth.
Did you time how long it took to coil? Who's the fastest coil?
Well, like we could right now. I just haven't had time to. We're all about the same in terms of time, and all 3 methods are about the same. There I got. So there, as you see, I got tangled. What was that method again? That was the. Let me go back. I think this was just the one loop, which is I'm now a fan of this method, but I had a tangle.
You are a fan of it?
It's grown on me. I never liked it, but I think it's the simplest, and I've been practicing it. I'm a fan.
I'm a big fan of the split.
Well, I think I am too, because we learned the split. And I think you're always a fan of what you learned, and so I
tried the other ones.
Here's the split. Here's the split.
Split just works so nice.
Look at that throw. So what we found this is Nick's his first throw, which is
wow.
So what we found with the split is it's harder to be accurate. Like we all felt that way. Like when we're on land, no problem. But when we're in a hurry throwing to swimmers, it was harder to be accurate. So this is Nick doing his butterfly.
Okay.
And he's doing shorter coils.
He's been coiling for 20 seconds now.
Okay. Are you timing, Aaron?
5 seconds. 30 seconds.
This is where it gets tricky. Is sometimes you get caught up with like what to hold on to.
35. And pretty much he's like at 30, 37, 38 seconds.
Okay. Well, now he's coiling a single loop. You timing this one? This one's much faster, right? Like coiling a butterfly. Yeah. Coiling a butterfly is tough. Now, what he's doing that we talked about a lot was like leaving that left hand steady so it's not swinging back and forth. Helps make neater coils.
The other thing too is he's switching his hands to throw. He's coiling with one and then throwing with the other. I think.
Yeah, I talked to him about that. He did it. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Now he's got to switch hands, and then it's going to be sitting weird, and he's got to make sure it's. Yeah, he's He's losing a lot.
He's doing the 2 coil right now.
Yeah.
But Nick's not. I don't think this is his primary method, right? Nick's not a 2 coiler. So all of us were trying each other's methods, and we all struggled with some of them at times.
All right. Should we look at some comments here? Make sure we're not getting really important feedback.
I like to plant my elbow on the thigh. Yep, that's what Michael does too. Least hand movement is best. Absolutely. We definitely found that out. Like putting that elbow, like Nick's doing right now. I'll pause it. See how he has his elbow, his left elbow on his knee. That's what Michael does. And you can't move that arm. It really helps to do that. And then Chad writes, or at least you undo the twist in one direction by twisting it in the other direction. I think, or at least I don't quite understand. Twisting in the other direction on the other side of the butterfly. Yeah. The butterfly is not my favorite method.
He's saying it's supposed to not twist. Yeah, that's supposedly with the butterfly, but I think the butterfly's for rock climbers. I think it's when rock climbers get involved with rafting. They're all about the butterfly.
Yeah. I'm convinced the butterfly is not the way to go. Switch your hand, then throw. It seems like an easy. Yeah, absolutely. I think we all agree. But part of what was happening with Nick too is he was trying to face the camera a little bit, and so once he realized that was his, he was struggling with that. So that was a good throw.
Yeah,
that was the single loop, right?
Yeah.
And so now he's back. Starting.
He's doing such small coils. Like you got to have a big hand to do that.
Yep.
Like that's a lot. It's double the amount of rope in your hand.
He's fast with it though. Look how fast he is. I mean, I definitely was not this fast.
It's been 20 seconds. He's not actually that much faster than he's at because he looks faster, but he's doing a lot of little coils. It'd be good to compare.
Hey, look, somebody likes me. I like how Zach stepped in the bag. I need to work on that. So that was the butterfly, and it got tangled. And the butterfly is supposed to be the least tangled. So I'm a fan. I'm going to pause it really quick to talk about stepping on bags. We talked about this before. I like stepping in the bag as a backup. So there's no chance or less chance you'll throw your rope in the water. Some people just let go when they're thinking. I don't feel like stepping on the bag is a bad thing. Some people think it's a danger because you'll get it wrapped around, your foot or whatever.
Well, I think also, Zach, you're not setting yourself up for a dynamic belay.
Yes.
Like if you get jerked
up in the bag.
It's messier. Like if you've got all in your hands and you get jerked a little bit, you can adjust and recover better if it's all in your hands. And if for some reason you gotta let go of the rope, you can just let go of it.
So the way I was taught was step on the bag and do the 2 coil throw. That was how I was taught. I've been doing that for 20 years. I'm now a fan of the single coil. And with the single coil, you have the other rope in your other hand. You're not going to let go. Like it's easy. So here's Nick's double coil.
Yeah, that was a nice shot.
It went the length, but also like he's not consistent with, he was off to a little bit of an angle. So if he's trying to go straight, he didn't go straight.
I think that's my point. You say the 2 coil is harder to throw because you just throw the first coil and the other one coils out towards where the first one's going.
It's hard to be accurate because you do that twist. You got to twist and throw one and the other, and so it's not just
when you do the single too.
You just throw it.
No, he's
like that. Yeah, not really. You have to think of one thing. You look at the swimmer and you throw it. The twist and throw, you got to do a whole wind up to do the double throw.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if he did bigger coils, if it'd be faster.
It's not that slow. I mean,
40 seconds. 40 seconds is eternity.
I mean, first of all, how often are you?
Unless you're sitting someplace where there's like tons of people coming down, you're like on the gully or something, and there's like boat after boat after boat. 40 seconds is too long. The people are all downstream.
So I want to go back to his last, just so you know, that last butterfly did get tangled quite a bit.
Okay.
So and Nick has really great rope work. So we're all struggling with the butterfly. So I'm ready to I'm ready. I mean, I'm not a fan of the butterfly. Here's a comment.
Dogga.
First. His loops are too small when doing the butterfly. You coil the rope, start big coils, and as you go. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we haven't tried that. I mean, it's really hard when you're in a hurry. There's this double throw. That was sweet. Yeah. That was a little more straight. When you're in a hurry, it's really hard to lay out bigger coils down to smaller coils, right? You're adjusting your coil length the whole time. It's hard to do. But we had some debates whether bigger coils or smaller coils are better. I think Michael and Nick.
I'm going to say something else about this. The technique where he's coiling like he is, he's not looking at the scene while he's coiling. If he's just looking at the rope, and I like to when I'm coiling, I'm not looking at my rope. I'm looking at what's going on around.
Yeah, no, I hear you. He was doing that so that the camera could see. So a little bit here,
Michael's looking up a little bit, like he's looking at his rope a little bit, which is good. Like I think that's a good habit to be, is like not focus on your rope, but focus on what's going around you while you're recoiling.
Michael's rope work is amazing. I love watching him do rope work. He has his left arm on his.
Let's start this again. Let's see how long this takes.
All right, let me go back. Michael's a little bit more methodical. We'll watch the end of Nick's.
Yeah. All right.
That was a good throw. Are you ready to time it? All right, this is the first throw.
Here we go.
Michael's a little more calm and methodical, and he's really good at making nice, even coils. And his left arm is on his thigh, and his left arm is stationary. He is fanatical about that stationary left arm. I have to say, like, I think that both Michael and Nick are better with throwbacks than I am. I think I'm pretty good.
They great tosses. I'm just wondering, like, how useful is this? Is the coiling thing? That's my thing. It's nothing about what they're doing. 30 seconds.
He stepped on the bag. He changed hands. See, this is the thing, is we're changing hands because of the
35, 36, 37. So just like 35 to 40 seconds, it seems like, is about the norm. What do you think about Martin's comment about the non-mesh bag filling with water and throwing the bag?
I've tried it. It's time it takes time.
By the time I feel like, and the thing is usually if you coil as you're bringing the rope, if you don't have the rope coiled and you're just like pulling in, all of a sudden you need to throw, that's a really good technique. That makes sense. Like you're just pulling the rope into shore and all of a sudden you're like, oh crud, I need to throw a bag to someone, and you dip it in the water and you can toss it. If you don't
I see what you're saying. So but usually the bag is out. So you have to pull the bag in, then fill it with water. So what we're starting at, the bag is out. Now you're pulling the rest. So for the quick rethrow, you're pulling the bag in last.
Yeah, no, I'm more seeing like you're on the side and you've got the bag to shore and you just were pulling it in. You weren't doing the coil method because you were just going to restuff it and someone shows up. Then that seems like that would be a good technique at that point. If you have the whole bag on shore, uncoiled, unstuffed, and you need to rescue someone, that's probably your best option.
Filling with water.
Yeah.
I've been telling you, I'm convinced that the single coil. This is Michael. Michael does not.
No, Zach, I'm saying if you don't have coils, the rope is on the ground. It's not stuffed in the bag.
Oh, you just got to grab the bag and throw it. Yeah.
That for that. Yeah, I agree with you.
So that's Michael doing the.
Ooh, that's good.
Michael doing the double coil technique. It's not his
rope with both hands. I don't like that.
It's not his. He's not practiced. I'm just like, I want us all three to do all of the techniques. So this is all of us doing our best, and this is not Michael's technique. You have to be super practiced with the double throw. We didn't practice before this. This is our practice before going on the river. And so here's Michael with the single coil, grabbing the rope. This is his best technique.
Bum says that he says these drills look like boat bags. I'd say most of those are made with your waist bag, which is an interesting thought.
So it depends. It depends if you are a waist bag person or a boat bag person. If I feel like if I'm guiding class 3, easy 4, I'm probably just going to tie a bag on a boat and not wear a waist bag. I'm not going to wear a waist bag till I'm guiding harder rivers, probably, where I need throwbacks quickly. And we actually had this exact debate. We had this boat bag versus waist bag debate the other day. I don't always wear a waist bag, so I'm usually using a.
I think a lot of multi-day guides don't wear waist bags.
Yeah. Yep. So that was the butterfly, right? Chad asks, how far will the water-filled bag go? I don't know if it'll go the whole 75 feet, but I've seen it go a ways.
Martin, how far can you toss it? Yeah, I'm curious to hear what Martin says about it, because I haven't had that good a look. I find it challenging to do that way.
I've never done it in the field. I've done it for practice, but I've never done it actually in the field. But the debate, like the debate I had with Nick the other day or yesterday, I said, there's nothing. If you're the ultimate guide, you wear a waist bag all the time. That was, again, Michael does not like, it's just not a technique, the double throw. So like, there's no downside to wearing a waist bag other than it's uncomfortable for you. And we decided if you're swimming as a guide, it's a little bit of an encumbrance when you're swimming, a tiny bit. But having a bag at your disposal at all times is amazing. And Nick's comeback was, well, I always grab it when I go somewhere.
I'm calling bull on that. Not always, the always part of it. Probably most of the time, but there's times when you don't. And I Willie Bum Bum has a good point. I'm going to kind of agree with Willie Bum Bum on this. Is that I think in an ideal world, you're carrying one on you. Like a good friend of mine I used to boat with a lot. He carried one on him. He's like, since I started carrying it on me, there's just times when I need it and I have it there. And he's like, I've used it more because I have it, and I don't always take it with me otherwise. And then it's just always there. And I thought that's the best reason for the waist throw bag in my mind, is it's just always there. Wherever you are, you have a throw bag. And when you're walking, it's particularly when you're walking around shore, not in the boat. Now, Zach, I have another problem with it. I find when I'm paddle guiding and I have one of those on my back and I'm trying to like slide my butt down into the boat, get down the bottom.
Which you do a lot. I've seen you guys.
Which I do a lot.
You like to sit down at the back of the boat.
Yes. It catches on the back of the boat. It keeps me from getting down in there. And I don't like it there. And I feel like it kind of puts my back in a weird spot. I don't like that pressure there. But that's just
this is gonna sound, I agree, Willie Bum Bum. I mean, you should probably have a throw bag with you. It's not the standard in the US for sure. It's more the standard the rest of the world. It should be part of your uniform. I agree.
I don't mind, and I'm gonna say I don't mind swimming with it. The swimming with it doesn't bother
I don't mind
me
either. Yeah, I don't mind swimming with it either. That was just me talking to Nick yesterday. I was like, there's no disadvantage to having it. You should have it. The reason you don't have it is because it's an extra thing to do and an inconvenience. Right. Yeah. But ideally there's no downside to it.
Well, then you got to maintain the rope too. That means like, I get to camp, I got to dry out my rope, right? You can't just let it sit in there, be wet for a week straight on a trip and get all disgusting.
Yeah. For me, it's just like, just all the times I put my life jacket on and off and take all the times we make lunch and all the stuff I do, it's just one more thing. And I'm honestly like a tiny bit lazy. And so when I'm guiding, easy, like the Rogue or the Middle Fork of the Salmon, we just don't use throw bags very often. And I get that there's the one time I'm going to use it and I should have it with me, but I'm fairly diligent about grabbing a throw bag when I scout, then, but I'm not, I get that we should have it. I'm just, after we took the IRF course, I wore mine for about 2 months and it kind of got like, well, I never use it. And, I don't need to carry it on my body.
I like the kayak ones that used to fit up in your chest up here. I like those better.
They're too small.
But they're out of the way. I really like that positioning on them. I think incorporating into your life jacket makes sense.
Yeah, they're like 30 footers though. The problem having it on your front is then getting back in the boat, right? You want minimal stuff in front of you to put yourself back in. Willie Bum Bum, Willie Bum Bums, you're really growing on me here. And not that I didn't like you. I just like, you have some very good points here and I'm digging this. Can we work towards getting the USA on par with other international standards? Yeah. I mean, the thing about the USA is we think we're the best. And
well, let's back it up with that. All the outfitters, each individual outfitter thinks they're the best and they all want to do things their own way too. I mean, we have very independent outfitters, I feel like, here in the US. Like everyone's got their own styles, their own methods, and getting everyone to agree upon stuff is hard.
Yeah. And the international standard is set by the International Rafting Federation. And that's something I'm personally trying to, both of us are instructors. We're trying to create more of this in the US. But when I offered a free IRF course last month and had one person sign up. So, guides don't have any interest in taking IRF courses.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sorry.
I just want to say, like, it'd be cool to get us up. I think the rest of the world is probably ahead of us a bit on terms of safety standards, and it would be nice to get there. But it's a big project.
So yeah, let's go back to a couple of comments if we can here. I think Chad had an interesting point about Chad. You spin your waist throw bag in front when you're sitting. I should try that. I like that idea. That sounds really cool. And then what was the other one too? Then the grinder guy, he was talking about spooling the rope on your arm, which I've seen people do that, like this.
Oh, I'm not into that.
Why? But did you guys try it?
No, that just seems like it could be the entrapment hazard. You're basically doing this, and then if the rope gets attached to something, you're attached to the rope.
Ooh, that's a good point. If the rope snags on something or somehow gets pressed, that's a little bit. I guess that's true. Yeah, I've never tried. I've never coiled any ropes this way though. Like some people curl their when they spool their bow line, they do their bow line like this. And I never like doing it like that. I always like just doing it in loops. So maybe I just don't have the habit of it.
Martin writes, I've easily tossed half of the rope length using water in the bag. The advantage is speed. Yeah, it's quick. Yeah. So I want to move on to some of this video that we have. So we did practice on shore, and then each of us did an IRF throw bag test. And an IRF throw bag test is you have two swimmers 25 seconds apart. You have to throw a bag out to the first one, get them to somewhere safe, which doesn't necessarily mean shore, just you have to get them somewhere stable. And then you have another one coming 25 seconds later, re-throw to them 10 meters away, which is 30 feet for those of you that don't speak meters.
Slow down. You're going really fast. Say that again. Could you a little slower? Because I couldn't keep up with it.
Well, sorry, I'm excited, and I might bore people with this. So the test, you have a minute and a half to do the whole test. The test starts the moment the first swimmer goes in the water. Swimmer goes in the water, they float down to you. You throw the bag, and you have to get it within their arms. You can't put it behind or in front of them. You have to get it within their arms. The swimmer has to be sort of like combatant until you say rope, and then they can be helpful. So you have to yell rope. You make sure they know a rope is coming. You pull that person in, or you let them swing to shore somewhere that's stable. You don't have to get them all the way to shore necessarily, right? Then the second swimmer launches 25 seconds after the first. So it's a short distance in between. You have to throw out to that second person 10 meters away, get them to shore, and touch them. And that's the end of the test.
Wait, did you have to touch the first person too?
Nope. You just have to get the person somewhere stable. You wouldn't have time. So we did quite a few. We've been practicing these. We did this in our IRF test, and we passed. Yeah. I struggled with it a little bit in my IRF test because my habit is to throw the rope in front of people so they swim to it, and I failed because you need to throw it to them. And so I'd
like to see what people think about this. When you aim your throw bag, where do you aim your throw bag? Do you aim it like downstream of them, upstream of them, straight over the top of them? If it's straight over the top of them, like across their shoulders, where are people aiming with their throw bags? Like, I'm curious to hear different people's thoughts. Because Zach, what's your feeling now? Where do you prefer, Dave? Still downstream of them?
Yeah, still downstream because they can get to it. If you're gonna make an error, you want to be aired in front of them.
Yeah, but then if you
go behind them,
what's your plus minus? What's your range that you're talking about in terms of like?
I'm going in between them and like 3 feet in front of them.
Okay, so Zach, what I'm saying is like when you throw, what do you think is the range of your throw? How much are you going to be off by? How much could you be off by?
10%. I mean, a lot actually. I mean, I don't know.
Like 3 feet off?
Sure.
So if you throw it straight over the top of them, let's say you throw it straight over their waist and you're off by 3 feet. If you're off by 3 feet downstream, it's just below their feet by a foot. If you're off by 3 feet upstream, they can probably almost reach that bar 3 feet upstream. If you throw it downstream of their feet and then you're off by 3 feet, you're like way downstream.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like I'm going for them or slightly in front of them, right? But I feel like if you throw behind them, they're not going to get it. Like people don't have the presence of mind to reach behind them and get it. I mean, if you're a good swimmer and a good boater and you've done this a lot, you can. But the average person can't get a bag that will land behind them. If it goes a centimeter behind them, you lost them. That's my take. You want to get it if you're going to make a mistake in front of them, so they swim into it. They can see it visibly in front of them and they have time to react. I think in the field, people, if you get the bag to them, they don't immediately just grab it. There's always a delay between the bag landing and them grabbing it. So if you get it right to them, it might take them a second to grab it and they'll lose it. So I'd like to throw me in front of them so they have a second to react to it and then grab it.
I think good points here. Back up before, I think a key part of this is that the importance of reaching with your voice before you throw the bag. I think that's a really important element of this, is because if you don't say it before, and then they're not going to see it if you float. If it goes just above their head, we've all seen that when you practice and they don't see the bag. You're like, hey, the bag, and they're like, whoa, where is it? So that's why I think you got to get their voice and see them and throw the bag while they're looking. First of all,
Martin just says I'm straight up wrong. The thing is, a swimmer is in the faster current.
The swimmer does travel faster than the water, but the swimmer's deeper in the current than the rope. So the rope does travel more slowly. But Zach, the thing is you got to go from your back. You got to get over your hips and get your head downstream to swim for it, versus turn around and swim a couple strokes. If it's just out of reach, if it's just above your hands, it's much easier to turn over and do a couple strokes. And it is getting over your hips and going the other direction takes time.
Sure. Yeah. My take is get it to them or slightly in front of them.
I think that's why just hit them with the bag. Get good enough that you can hit them with the bag.
I hear you. I'm with you. I'm not as accurate as the rest of you. I'm going to be off by more than most people. I struggle with throw bag accuracy. So if I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to choose to make a mistake in front of them, because the swimmer will move faster than the bag. And so Martin writes the upstream will swing into them. I disagree with that.
Let's start. Grinder guy agrees with you. Grinder guy,
if they're passing me to my legs,
their face. I agree with Willie Bum Bum. I tried to smack him in the face with it. Hit him in the face with the bag. Then they're going to grab it. Yeah. So
it depends on current distance, how quickly you mentally. Yeah. I mean, it depends on a lot of factors, right? You have to look, you have to have the practice so you can go in and be like, okay, I can get it to them. Or maybe, this person is not aware enough. This is a commercial guest and they don't have the ability to swim backwards, and you want to infer them to eventually catch it. Maybe there's time for them to get to it. Maybe there's not. I think it's always an individual calculation. So I'm with Willie Bum Bum on this.
Did you guys try? It would be really fun to see some trials of missing it just above their head and just below their feet and see how quickly they can get to it.
Throwing downstream keeps them looking where they are heading and they can spot danger. Yeah, thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. Over the head so you don't break their teeth with the carabiner. Don't throw a bag with a carabiner on it. Just take the carabiner off. Whistle blast for attention. Maybe a whistle. I don't know. You definitely want to get. They need to know the bag is coming. I think this is critical. You can't just throw a bag to somebody who doesn't know it's coming.
I think it's hard though to get a whistle blast
while you're holding the rope.
You're pulling the rope out. Yeah. And usually I'm just yelling with my voice. In terms of practicality, a whistle blast would be great if you can do it. Maybe Willie Bum Bum has a way to get the whistle. Maybe he's got this technique. He's practiced grabbing it off his vest with his mouth.
Or maybe you can whistle. Some people can whistle without a whistle. That's an important skill. I feel like a real whistle, like a Fox 40 whistle, creates an elevated sense of danger for everybody, and might make people look for somebody dying. And I try to avoid real whistle blasts personally. Where if you can do a whistle with your fingers, that's cool, or without your fingers. But I would say what we're training on IRF is you yell, hey, swimmer, rope, and you just yell that really loud. So you can't hear it in the videos, but you'll see it. So this is us just doing it. And so this is just practice of us doing this technique here. This is on the white salmon on the middle section. We just pulled over and I think Michael's the first, Nick's throwing and Michael's the first swimmer. So Nick did a good job of throwing it over right to him. So easy grab. Right. So in the test, he has to get him the eddy, and now we can start his recoil. I'm already in the water. Right. You see me coming down. This is a very quick rethrow. Nick, so here, I think this is an important thing about the single coil. he didn't coil the whole thing. He coiled as much as he could, and then he threw what was left. So his left hand is on it, single coil. He didn't have to go to completion on the throw, on the rope.
With the double coil, you don't have to go to completion either. You can still split it.
You don't have to.
He's basically doing a double coil because his other coil is just out in the water right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's, that bit of rope in the water is a hazard.
Yeah. To pass the IRF, don't you have to have it all back in before you make your second throw?
No. I actually showed Mark this video to get feedback for my own instructing, and he made that comment, you should get the rope out of the water. And I was like, what if you can't? He's like, do your best. And he's like, this is a tough one because usually when you're doing throw bag tests, there's not an eddy like this. It's just shore, and so your rope just goes down. This one's a unique spot because whatever rope you leave out is going to swirl in the eddy. So here's Michael.
Doing a second time?
Michael, this is Michael's first. Michael's a ninja with the throw bag.
That's where you want the throw, right there. Michael nailed it.
Yep. Now Michael's a ninja with the throw bag. Now, so here he has the end of the rope in his hand. He's coiling into the rope in his hand.
Nice rope management there too. He never got, oh boy, the other person went fast.
It's 25 seconds. It comes in the IRF, it comes quick, but his throw is amazing, right? Like he got it to me, and so he finishes by pulling me in. He has to touch me, and that's the end of the test, right there. So here's mine.
Do you understand what's the purpose of the touching him? Just to get that idea of get hands on the person to rescue him, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about the IRF test lately because we've been administering it, and what I've been doing is administering it to Nick, and then showing Mark the video for feedback on my own administering the test. And a lot of it, these tests are a little bit contrived. Like when you have to do the flip test, you have to jump back on the boat and count the heads. I think a lot of it is just to make you do mental things while you're doing physical things. So I think it's almost just a test. Can you remember to grab them? It's important to grab the swimmer, but it's like, it makes you have to think about things while you're doing stuff. So it's like it's testing you under pressure a little bit.
Okay. I mean, because it makes sense to me for both, like to be thinking about the swimmers around your boat when you're flipping the boat back over. Like that makes sense to me. And it makes sense to me to have thought of like, hey, once you pull the swimmer into the eddy, you're not just done. You're like, oh, okay. Like you really want to think about getting them out of the water. Yeah. Yeah,
no. And I think like the time needs to end at some point. I think it's a natural thing to pull that person and grab them. So it's a good habit. Again, these tests I feel like are a little contrived, but they're a good test of your skills in making sure you are solid. So here's mine.
Yeah, I like Willie Bum Bum.
I went a little behind him. Hold on, let's go back. I just want to. Michael's a ninja.
Well, Michael would be throwing me a throw bag if I'm swimming.
Yeah, no, he's good. Nick's really good too. We've done a bunch of throwing lately, so that's the end of the test right there. Right. So here's mine, and I throw a little bit behind Michael. Man,
would that pass the test?
I mean, you tell me. He had to reach for it. Luckily he knew it was coming. But if he didn't know, if he was just like a passive swimmer, he probably wouldn't have gotten that one. So I pulled him in. Now I'm starting my coil after I pulled him in.
Was that purposely to try it differently?
No, it was just me not thinking that hard. It was me pulling Michael in. Like now I have not enough rope, and I missed.
So it seems like the keeping rope management just in general is a good habit. Is not having it around your feet, and there we see like that's a good reason because you can always throw the other side if you needed to. Having it ready to go. Willie Bum Bum talks about a good key point. I think is about the eye contact. Is making eye contact. I don't know how Willie Bum Bum. Please explain how you do the whistle blast while you have. How do you just grab it quickly? I guess you can hold it. You're like ready with your rope, and you just grab it and whistle blast. And then, are you Willie Bum? Also, I'd be concerned with like having that saying the expectation with clients is like, hey, we will whistle blast before we throw you a throw bag.
Yeah, I agree.
I like the idea of using your whistle as an option. I worry too much. being too specific. Touching is
Yeah,
required.
well, I'm also interested. Where do you work? Like, I think that I could see if you're working on like Iceland on a class 4+ river where tons of people are swimming. I could see being hardcore, like, hey guys, you're gonna get a whistle. Whereas if it's somewhere like the South Fork of the American, you don't use throwbacks very often. You don't need a bunch of whistles on the South Fork. That would just cause anxiety for the people. So I did a second throw this day just because I wanted. I mean, I'm like, I got to practice. I made him jump in the river again. This is my second one.
Grinder guy, good question about standardizing tests. That's the tough thing about these tests is it's not totally standard. So sorry, Zach.
No, I mean it is a good way to standard. It's a good way to standardize a test. I mean, I think that's the thing too, is that there's a start and a stop. It starts when the first person jumps in the water. It ends when you touch the second swimmer. So it is a good way to standardize a test.
Yeah, and it's tough to standardize
exactly because you could say it ends when the swimmer they get the throwback. That could be the end. I mean, on the IRF test, the minute and a half is very contrived because it depends on the length of the rapid. If they had to jump in 10 feet higher, the test would take longer, right? It's not so the time constraint actually isn't the minute and a half. The time constraint is you have swimmers 25 seconds apart and you have to get them both in. So
go ahead.
I don't know. We just talked about this a lot. Like the issue is the back-to-back swimmers. The whole minute and a half thing, I think, is silly, actually.
Well, and then Zach, you brought up a good point. We were talking the other day. Is like to have this be a good test. It's really on the instructor to find the conditions that'll make it work. And you can set your students up for success. You can set up for failure depending upon the rapid you're choosing, the location that you're using. So, yeah.
I mean, that's what. So, I'm administering the test to Nick, and then I'm coming back in the evening and emailing Mark. Mark Hurst is the assessor to say, "Hey, Mark, what do you think about my selection for a throwback test? What do you think about how the test was done?" To get feedback from him on doing this. So I want to go back and show you my second throw because I want to practice. Throwbacking is I struggle with it actually.
Did you not play a lot of sports when you were a kid?
What?
Did you play ball sports as a kid?
Yeah.
Basketball, soccer, baseball.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a ninja with a football, but a throwback to me is a whole other thing.
Why don't you try the football throw?
Because I didn't learn it. I feel like I messed it up. For me too, like in football, I like leading people, and that's how I like to throw too. Like I like to lead to where they're going. So this is my second throw, and I realized in that first one, I need to be coiling it as it comes in. I can't like pull him in and then coil it. So I'm pretty sure on this one, I tried the same thing where I coiled it. So there. See, I can throw a throwback to somebody and I'm not terrible. Oh, nope, I didn't coil it as I came in. I just pulled them in again. And I started.
You got him in fast.
And I'm moving my arm on the right. I'm doing better at slowing it down. Yeah, I also recognize the time is a constraint, so I had to yarded him in. My arm is moving again, though. I think. So that was a little bit in front of him. He had to swim down to it.
The other thing, Zach, about throwing it downstream of them, then you're forcing them to be head downstream instead of feet downstream.
I hear you.
Which in certain rapids, that's not a good position to be in.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So this is, before I get to this, I show a few comments. Too much hand movement. Am I really? Absolutely. Like I think that's an issue I've been having. I'm working really hard on my hand movement. Connected to so his whistle's on the lapel of his green jacket. Can you get to it without your hands? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do it. Were your swimmers 10 meters away? Looks closer. Yeah, it was actually probably like 7 or 8 meters. And so this next, where we did it yesterday, this next video, we experimented with distance. Like we were against that wall and sometimes in the middle to see. We're playing around with it, but it wasn't 10 meters in that test. Willie Bumba, my safety talk is nearly identical for all rivers, some circumstances. Yeah, my other thing is if you did a trip with me and you told people, if you're the only person that does that, that's an issue, right? Like if you're the only guy that blows a whistle for your swimmers, I think that's an issue. I think all the guides have to be on board with that technique. Or if I was guiding with you and you get a safety talk and I didn't know you told people that, that could be an issue. I don't think it's standard practice to blow your whistle before throwing a bag. What do you think, Aaron?
I don't think it's a standard practice. It's not a bad thing to do, depending upon the situation and what's going on. But I think it's more situational. Like using your whistle is like, hey, this is a spot where I want to use my whistle. You know.
But would you, in your safety talk, would you tell people in the safety talk that if you get there's gonna be a whistle before people get a throw bag?
No, I would say that I would discuss the whistle and what the whistle is used for. And if you have one blast, that means attention. That means look towards the person who's blowing the whistle. And so there it would lead in very well to that. So that'd be like if Willie did, if I gave my safety talk and Willie hit his whistle, people would look at him and he could throw his throw bag. So it would work well, but it wouldn't set that expectation that, hey, somebody's going to blow a whistle. And I think that's New Zealand. Yeah.
So, I mean, New Zealand has some pretty hardcore standards. I mean, that's a country where they're pretty hardcore about what it takes to be a guide, and they have a way of doing things for sure. My only fear with that technique, like I said earlier, is it's not the standard here. So the guides you work with may not know that whistle is part of being throw bags. It certainly isn't a standard throughout the U.S., and so it could cause confusion, which could be tricky. Mark, you're right. Yep, I think this is it. Like if you try yelling and you can't get their attention, yeah, then I could see going to a whistle. I'm 100% behind that. I could see it. I wouldn't do it I'm saying I definitely wouldn't do it every time, and I wouldn't make it part of the safety talk myself.
But
Aaron, thoughts?
But I can see what Willie's saying. I don't think it'd be interesting. Like I think we are both definitely on the use the whistle the least amount possible. Yep. And I think we cringe every time someone blows a whistle pretty much. We're like, oh God, something awful is happening. And there's other people who use whistles much more often than we do. I think it's the way we were like raised. Like we grew up boating together and you just didn't really use whistles. So
yeah. And I think both of us have been in situations, I'm sure I've been in this with you, where people start going whistle happy and they're not needed, and it raises the anxiety level of everybody, So I think minimizing whistle use is a good thing. We don't need to be blowing whistles all the time. It should be safe for when it's really needed.
Yeah, be crying wolf in a way.
Yeah, whistle depends on how loud it is while you're throwing. Ultimately, yeah, I agree. Ultimately, it's about getting your customer's attention for eye contact. A panic customer might benefit. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% there. We should all be on the same page, professionals. Yeah, I totally agree. That's why it's good to have this discussion, right? Because I think we disagree on what the same page is, and I'm going to probably reflect on the whistleblowing later, and you might reflect on it later, and we might move closer to a similar standard.
But I think the big part about being professional, Willie, what you're saying is really true. Is like when you're working a river, if everyone's on the same page, that's the key, right? Is like how you're doing safety on that river, on that trip with that group of people. We're all on the same page about how we're doing it, because it's going to vary company to company. It's going to vary river to river. It's going to vary like conditions. There's so many variables involved, but we're on the same page.
But I think the crew needs to be on board, and I think. Because I don't think the blowing the whistle every time you throw a throw bag is a standard. So if you're guiding a trip and there's a rent-a-guide on the trip, then you have to tell them you have to train all your new guides, this is what's going on. Because if somebody doesn't understand the standard, it can be problematic.
I mean, that's a good point. But I think that's one of the problems with having rent-a-guides in general, is they're not on board with everything. And there's no way to with everything. And no matter
you can have a sheet of paper that's like, hey, by the way, you should know these 10 things. But yeah, I'm with you. That's where like across the industry, like having like Willie's Willie Bum Bum's kind of. I mean, are you just Willie, or we'd call you Willie? I like Willie Bum Bum. But if we had some sort of standards industry wide, that'd be great. Like Colorado does some things that I like. They use this for speed up as a signal on the Arkansas River, right? So when Arkansas guides come guide us on the Middle Fork, and we do this, they think they go faster.
And you're telling them to pull over.
Yeah. And I mean, Arkansas guides have their own set of river signals, right? And so there's river signals are in a place where there's no standardization, which it's problematic. Haldor, I hope that's your name, Haldor. Almost like Hodor. Yeah, I agree. Safety talk has the call and eye contact. Yeah, I think that's good. Chad says, I think voice is best. Whistle means to pay attention. Yelling rope, I'm throwing rope. Yeah. So I think the generalization is get their attention with their voice. If you can't, then use the whistle as like a backup. That makes sense, right, Aaron?
Yeah, you don't. It's not like you have that much time to like. Oh, my voice isn't yet working. Now I'm gonna get my whistle and blow my whistle, get their attention.
Yeah.
I'd say just pelt them in the face with the throw bag. And
His comments are great. Signaling has been standard. Signaling is not standard. Bill McGinnis has a book of river signals. There is an IRF set of signals, which is even the IRF signals are different. Aaron and I had to relearn signals with that. And then everywhere I guide, I have to say, hey guys, what signals are you using for these things? It is far from standard. It's standard by geographical location. Like almost everybody in Oregon does kind of the same thing, but it's not, I don't think it's standard at all. Preseason team trips help amongst your team. Yeah. I mean, sure. Preseason team trips turn into parties though. So, you know,
that's awful. Yeah, that's a reason not to go on the river pre-season, Zach. Yeah, that would be.
I think the downside of whistling is not so much about concerning clients as much as making sure people react properly when the situation is serious. It's not so much. Yeah. I think explain that to me, Aaron.
I think he's saying like what we were talking about before is like if you're using your whistles all the time, and then there's something critical and you're using your whistle, people aren't going to respond quite in the same way. Like it's the crying wolf thing. I think that's what he's saying.
I agree. Not standard in the U.S., which is very difficult. Man, Willie Bum Bum, I agree. I hear you. Three long blasts. The emergency is the only constant. Yep. I've heard one whistle's attention. 3 is emergency. That's what I've heard. How does mostly work with? Yeah, I mean, if he mostly works with Europeans, there's great standards, especially in Europe and throughout the rest of the world. In the U.S., there's not a standard. So let's watch some more throwback. I accidentally on this. These comments are great, everybody. Thank you so much. And again, like we'd love to see what rivers you guys, if you're a commercial guide and what river you work, I'd love to hear that. Or if you're a private boater and where you boat most of the time, we're just curious. So if you want to leave a comment, we'd love to hear that.
And they did talk about it up above a bunch, Zach. Like,
yeah,
where was that? Yeah, it was way back.
There's 23 people, so there's more of you out there watching. So feel free. But so we have GoPro on our second location for throw bags. I accidentally had it in the setting for time lapse in the first set of. So this is gonna go quick and be weird, but this is our first set of throws and rethrows. And so that's me throwing the bag. What I did then was I threw it and I coiled immediately into my hand and then rethrew. And that was a big difference. So I just did 2 laps there just to practice. So this looks like Michael, throw and rethrow. And these were far. We were up against this far wall. This is more than 10 meters just to test out distance.
Grinder guys giving you props for getting better at your throws after all your practice.
Thanks. I've gotten better. It's sad. I like to think that I'm perfect and I was already great with throw bags, but I would urge you guys to go out there in the cold, not having practiced much for a year and slay an IRF test. I've certainly been humbled through this. That's for sure. So this is slower. And we think this was 10 meters, this distance. This is our second round here. So now I'm slowly coiling him in. I'm coiling him. I'm bringing him to shore, and I'm coiling as I go. And this, by the way, this test, this is a waist belt for me. I'm using the.
Did you do all this in a minute and a half? Because they're floating so slow downstream, it looks like it'd be hard to get it all done in a minute and a half.
We did, yeah. I'm sure this is a minute and a half. I didn't time it yet, but a minute and a half turns out a long time. And so just kind of pulling them in, swinging, and then the grab. This location was just different. It was just different than the last one. It wasn't a big eddy. So one thing, just going back to the beginning, with the waist belt throw bag as part of the test. So in the way you have to start with the waist belt around your waist, take it off, pull the back. So when the first swimmer goes in, you then have to take the waist belt off. So if you watch the beginning of mine, here's the time lapse again really quick. So I'm starting with the waist belt around my waist, if you can see that.
So Zach, if you're doing the test with the waist belt, you have to start with it around your waist. If you're doing a test without a waist belt, or do you have to do the test with the waist belt?
No, they want you to do it with the waist belt because it's the right thing. This is exactly where Nick and I had this discussion. If you have a regular boat, what was called a boat bag earlier, that has to start on the ground next to you. So it's advantageous to use a boat bag, right? Because you just pick it up and go, right? Where I want to do the test with a waist belt just to, make it a little bit harder, which is not that hard. You got to pull it off. But I know my swimmers in the water, I have to fumble with like opening the bag, throwing to shore, opening the top, opening the waist belt, and then opening the thing. It definitely was a little nerve wracking. I had plenty of time, but it added a bit of just complication for me. And this is I'm using this Hyperlight bag. So again, it's just this like after practicing, it's just this deliberate coil ready to go, taking my time. Once he's safe, just keeping that coil going. And I think I got most of the rope on the coil by the time Michael came down. I'm not nearly as rushed as I was last time.
Well, they seem to be floating way slower too, Zach.
The current's slower there. It's a different beast at that spot. I mean, when you're administering a test as an instructor, you can make it a really hard place or a really easy place. Yeah, let's see more of Zach's throws. Much improved in comparing them to when he threw the rope down the river. Yeah, that was embarrassing. So now Nick is doing his test. He's out of frame right now. So I think Nick's doing the same thing, coiling it. I can't see him, but I think we learned that like trying to coil it as you're pulling somebody ashore, it makes a big difference. It's a great throw.
Yeah, that took less than a minute total.
Yeah. A minute and a half is a long time. Raymond writes, I never used a whistle before, but like the idea. I wouldn't use it on my local class 3 South Fork, but on the T or no fork could be very useful. Raymond, you should. I feel strongly that everybody should have a whistle. Everybody who's a private boater or a guide should have a whistle. Clients shouldn't have whistles, but we should have whistles with us. We need them to grab attention at times.
Do you think he's talking about just having a whistle, or do you think he's talking about using it for throw bags?
I've never used a whistle before, but like the idea.
I'm guessing it's about throw bags with throw bags.
Oh, with throw bags. Oh, I see. Yeah, then I disagree. So that was Michael's throw, and then his rethrow is coming up. So the thing is, it's been interesting doing this different places and practicing, each of us practicing and refining techniques, and definitely worth the time. And Michael was a little bit upstream there, but he's typically been the best at rope work, I think, among the three of us. It's like Michael, Nick, and then me. So, well, Aaron, we've been doing this for a while. Let's go through some of these comments and wrap this bad boy up. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great.
Willie Bum Bum, U.S. Rafting Federation, our future. California, New Zealand, and Grand Canyon most recently. So I don't. U.S. Rafting Federation. I have no idea. I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. As an outfitter, I employ guides. I don't really want them to have to take these tests necessarily. I don't want more regulation. It's hard. It's hard to get everybody certified. So I don't know. I mean, I'm torn on this, whether we do this or not. I think if we're going to have people be tested, I think following the International Rafting Federation standards is the way to go. So I don't think the U.S. needs its own rafting federation necessarily. But, to get tested, it's 2 days, it costs money. And so is this something that we should have all of our guides go through? I don't know. But it seems like, we want you to have a woofer. We want you to have Swiftwater Rescue and an IRF certification. That's a lot of money in days. And, I think we can trust that people are getting the training without an official cert potentially. But I think figuring out how to get IRF standards to the U.S. would be helpful. What do you think of that, Aaron? I don't think the Grand Canyon has a standard like this. California doesn't have it. California is the least
I think it's messy. I think it's really messy, though. I think it's messy, though. It's like the Grand Canyon is such a different place from the American River or Cherry Creek or with the Arkansas. Like the rivers are so different. Idaho River, they're so varied. Our rivers, that's I think one of the things that for us is just like the settings are so different for the rivers that we run, that make it trying to standardize maybe some basic standardization, but you start getting a little more in depth, and it's just this doesn't make sense here. This makes sense here.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's why the IRF stuff is good, is because it's not super in depth. It's like a throwback test, a flip drill, a very simple safety talk, like the basics. It's not the full safety talk. You have to give that talk, and it covers what other tests are there? And you have to do a 3-to-1 in 5 minutes, right? It's just covering stuff that's fairly standard among all rapids.
But Grand Canyon, no, you don't need to know a 3-to-1 in Grand Canyon.
That's true, but it doesn't hurt to know it. And anybody who's a Grand Canyon guide went through. They need it somewhere else. It doesn't hurt to learn 3-to-1. But I think that slowly having standardization, working towards that is good. Whether people have to be officially certified, I'm torn on. Let's see. In a private boater, just getting serious this last year on a stern frame, South Fork of American for just building skills. Thanks for your fun little jiggly advice on things. Definitely get me thinking. I don't know what jiggly means.
That was the other day when we just kind of ramble on. Remember you had that whole thing about the
what's the term? Yeah. What's that word again? Yeah, so the thing is, that only counts for boating. It's like, I'm not forcing anybody to be here. You can go, you can leave. It's when I'm held hostage and put in because somebody has to get a latte. That's jangling. Jangling. When I've met you and I'm like, hey, let's meet at 12:30 to go boating, and you show up and you go get a latte really quick, that's jangling. Right now we're not jangling because, again, you don't have to be here.
Hey, talking about a couple of the other comments here,
let's go through coiling straight out of the water into throwing. That's what I'm sold on. I'm sold on throw the bag and then coil right as you're getting them, coil right in your throwing hand. This hand's on the rope and you throw that rope. It's simple. It's easy. That's what I'm convinced of right now. I think it's quick. With Bum Bum, Fox 40, that's the whistle. I mean, that's just a standard. It's great because it doesn't have a little ball inside, and the balls get wet and they don't work. So they're great.
Fox makes another whistle that's even louder than the Fox 40. I can't remember the
Fox
name
41
of it right now.
Fox
it's
41.
Something like the Fox 41.
Google it. Tossing the rope down the river wakes people up to the fact that we must all practice. You likely help save lives by proxy. Your humility keeps me coming back. Yeah, I've definitely had some humility on this one. That's for sure. They'd get better. I think Billy Bum Bum's writing by doing IRF courses, people would get better. I agree. I agree. I think, Nick and Michael and I Michael and I have already done our IRF stuff. The last few days going out, we're better. I mean, not only because we've practiced, but we've had so many discussions about what works better for each other that we've all improved a lot. Let's see. Becoming a raft guide is mentoring on a local river to advance IRF is good. Yeah, I think as IRF, I think it'd be good to have it, actually. I just don't, to require every guide in the U.S. to have, or even a state to have an IRF certification, it would be an insane change. It would require like so many tests. It's not even possible, and so many people would fail. Like there's a lot of people who would fail IRF tests. It's shocking. Like there's a lot of guys that can't get back in a boat, and to do a flip test, you have to get in the back in a boat 3 times.
Yeah, outfitters wouldn't have enough guides.
And a lot of guides would get upset at the test because it is contrived, but I think for good reason. So they would be like, this test is stupid, and get frustrated. Built in our Swiftwater programs, not a bad idea. Actually, I would maybe say people should, if it was me, I would say do an IRF workshop before a Swiftwater class. But, I think that might be the future.
I think it depends on the Swiftwater course. I think the ones where if you're in there with firefighters, the IRF course is way better. If it's a rafting focus with all rafters, I think they both have their advantages. Then
the IRF course is cool because it's not just rescue.
Yeah, I love the IRF course. I think the IRF course is great. Yeah,
and it's partially teaching, but it's mostly testing. The idea is that you are an experienced guide. You get a few years of experience, and then you go get tested, and then you get certified. So when you're a brand new guide, you can get a provisional certification to show you can do some basic stuff, but you need experience before you can pass an IRF test. So it's not something everybody can have anyway. So start somewhere doable. Let's get comments. Good luck, man. That's a big project. Yeah, I'm in. What do we use it? Do we use the IRF signals? The IRF signals are really good because they work with standard search and rescue. It's like they're designed to interact with search and rescue signals, where the signals we all use that we have now don't necessarily interact with search and rescue well. So the IRF is sort of like, what's that language they came up with that was supposed to be the international language, Aaron? I'm talking about. It's called Argo or something. It's sort of like, it didn't catch on, right? But it's a good idea to have an international language. It probably was really good. It just didn't catch on. I think the IRF signals are like that. Like it's such a change from what we have now. Like I think this, and I forgot some of them. This is the Are You Okay? The hand pointing down instead of the tapping. So I don't know. How does IRF differ from Swiftwater certs? So Swiftwater is mostly just rescue stuff, like all the stuff we need, like mechanical advantage and setting up tension diagonals and how to do rescue. The IRF is more of a test of guiding skills, and so it's a test of like we've talked about, your reflip. You have to give a safety talk that passes certain the bait that does certain things. You have to show that you can do a 3-to-1 quickly. That's a skill. What are some? I should know these things off the top of my head. The throw bag test, of course. You have to do a swim test. You have to, we did this after this. I did make a swim test. I made him come down, swim through certain eddies with a paddle in his hand. He had to pass a swim test. So it's sort of like a test of your guide's skills that you need.
Right? And safety talk, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So there are different things. IRF is more of a test of your base guiding skills, and Swiftwater is more of a rescue class.
All right. I think we're never going to end. We keep getting more comments. We're just trying to wrap up all these comments.
No, we're getting it going. In a high energy environment, I guess I'd call it right of the hand is hard. Maybe. I just don't know. Halder, I'm guessing you're IRF certified and you've done this test. Getting 2 swimmers in 25 seconds apart, it's hard to get somebody to shore and then start a coil and deploy. So I think for the IRF test, I'm definitely going to pull them in and coil. In the real world, I think every situation is different. Aaron, what do you think?
I think it's what you've practiced and what you're comfortable doing. I think that's a big part is like, if you've practiced it enough, it's not going to be hard to do in that environment. If you haven't practiced it, yeah, it's not going to work for you. So figure out what works for you and practice it and get comfortable with it. And then it becomes a habit.
Yeah, I mean, Willie Bump Up. I mean, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that, Aaron. I'm reading the comments. I mean, yeah, IRF does set standards, and they should be standard. But try going to the Arkansas River and saying, "Hey guys, stop doing what you've been doing." The IRF thinks you should use these signals. That's a.
We know better than you about what you need to be doing on your river.
Yeah,
you know, that's what they're going to hear. Is like, we know better than you know about what you need to do here, and yeah. Yeah,
Willie Bum, I agree. I mean, we're working towards having everybody IRF certified in our company. You know, and we're probably maybe 50% IRF certified now, and there's not that many IRF certified guides in the US. I mean, probably less than 50. I'm guessing it's just not a thing here, but it's something we've decided to do on our own, and it would help all companies. But I think forcing outfitters to do it would be tough. I could see it being tough. You think about like the South Fork of the American, there's probably 300 guides. You can get 300 guides IRF certified. I don't know. IRF and Rescue 3 almost, yeah. Yep. I think Rescue 3 probably use the same signals. Swiftwater is more focused on urban environment and flooding whitewaters for the river. I mean, there is Swiftwater classes for whitewater. Right. You just got to pick the right class. So, and there are things in Rescue 3 classes that I don't think are that useful. Aaron, I can't hear you. You're.
Yeah, I was just muted there. Sorry.
Okay.
I agree with them. Like, you have to be careful about what Swiftwater class you take. Yeah. You can't just go take a Swiftwater class, because then you're going to end up with some urban class and you're going to be like with a bunch of firefighters talking about using helicopters. You'll be like, well, this isn't really applicable to what I'm doing. So he's totally right. Like, you have to be careful about what Swiftwater class you're going to take. Yeah, if you're going to just get the IRF, and that's right. With IRF, you know it's rafting, and it's going to be for rafting. So.
Yeah, but I would. Yeah, there's whitewater specific ones. It's a bummer if somebody just gets a cert to get a cert, and they end up with a bunch of firefighters, and they're not doing stuff that's helpful up to them. That's a big deal. Nick, I think this guy's Nick Gora Nick. Just go to Guide School Arda. I mean, that's a great. I mean, Aaron, you are Arda's best ever guide school instructor. I mean,
thank you, Zach.
You are a legend in the Arda guide school community. I mean, if you want to learn from the best, that's Arda Guide School right there. So, yeah, that's a good place to go. If we were able to get the U.S. Coast Guard UL label that's in all PFDs to include the signals, that would still get everybody to use them.
That's a good idea.
Oh, you mean put the signals in the PFDs?
Yeah, like these are the basic safety signals. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just step one is, which signals do we use? Do we use Bill McGinnis's book? Do we use? I mean, who makes this decision? Who's in charge? Hey, Willie Bum Bum, do you just want to tell us what signals to use, and we'll move on? Like, how do we choose that set of signals first? Do we have to have our own? Now, do we have to have a U.S. Rafting Federation that has a committee on river signals?
I think we've got it right here. I think this is it. All of us right here. We're the committee. We'll decide. We'll let everyone know what we've decided, and we'll make the standards.
And then Halder writes, did IRF course 15 years ago. I'm teaching SRT, WRT courses these days. Awesome. Halder, I'm guessing you're in Europe by your comments. I'd love to know where you're from. But
did you say he worked in Iceland? I think he said he worked in Iceland.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Mark. Mark was there this summer working those trips in Iceland.
Well, sweet. I think we
I'm not tealing it. No, I have enough to do. I get this show. The show doesn't just happen on its own. How about if I do this show and Willie Bum Bum, you TL it? He's in Iceland. Right. How do we love to meet you someday? I'm guessing you work with Mark, and that river looks super cool. So thanks for joining us, and thank you to everybody for commenting. it's really fun for Aaron and I. We can just chat it amongst each other and give us our own, like, share our nonsense. But it's really nice to have comments. So thank you everybody for commenting.
Cool. Yeah, totally agree, Grinder, about having the standard signal. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Are we gonna call this meeting of the Mediocre Video Review Show to an end? Hey guys, I want to thank you guys again for all your great comments, particularly that stuff about the waist bags, where to wear them, and it seems like we're pretty in agreement that it's good to have a waist bag on you. It's a really good way to go. And do we know what we're going to discuss next week's show yet, Zach? Have we figured that out yet?
No,
we haven't.
No.
Throw out some ideas. I don't think we've come up with one for next week. So if you guys have ideas, throw in the suggestions in the comment box. If you guys are listening to this after the live show and you've got comments or questions, put them in the comment box. We'll get back to them, or we'll discuss them on next week's show. So well, hopefully you guys are all getting out on the water here towards the end of the season. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, have a great time. Thanks again for joining us.
Yep. Thanks everyone.